Hi,
Excellent. Thank
Adam
you.
Mills here with Roy LePage. Welcome to our Facebook Live series, Divorce Isn't a Bad Word, Navigating Uncoupling. Over the last year to year and a half, we've seen how much of a toll COVID has played on people's relationships. And as a result, we want to set out to meet with 6 different industry experts to talk about tough topics that surround divorce and separation. So today's show is called The Breakup. You don't have to be enemies. And joining me is Zahra Nafar. Zahra is passionate about her work in specialized couples therapy. She wants to help people grow through the process of divorce instead of spiraling into more trauma and difficulty. Zahra also has pre-marriage or before cohabitation therapy that she offers, so you can go into things with your eyes wide open. Zahra is a neuropsychotherapist. She has a doctorate in neuroscience and is also a registered psychotherapist. She's the owner and director of Your Therapist Psychotherapy and Counseling. Zahra, thank you again so much for being here. I really appreciate that.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So one thing I thought, I'm sure a lot of this, the lingo is, second nature to you, because by the sounds of it, you have far more degrees than I'll ever have in my life. But what I thought would make some sense or help some people out is if you could define a few things for us, just so we can get a sense on what these different things might mean. So if you can give us a sense, like what is psychotherapy? If you can give us a sense of what's the difference between that and counseling, for instance.
Yes. So psychotherapy usually psychotherapy and counseling are used interchangeably. However, there are differences. So psychotherapy is usually the treatment that's based on a diagnosed mental health issue, such as bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, depression, anxiety, generalized anxiety disorder. And it is a clinical treatment. So there's a course of treatment that is followed by the clinician, clinician being a registered psychotherapist usually. And counseling, it has some aspects of psychotherapy, but it tends to be more wellness oriented. So it's not a full clinical course of treatment, and it provides increased insight and learning on how to approach different situations in life and overcome obstacles and challenges.
So am I right then in thinking that for the majority of people going through a divorce or separation, then it would be more the counseling side of things that you'd be providing and not so much the psychotherapy for their unique needs?
That is correct. So in treatments such as the family mediation therapy that we provide at Your Therapist, it would be more the counseling part of it. So we won't be going deep into a person's mental health history unless it is relative to the situation. Yes, it would be more of the counseling side and providing insight into the situation and kind of paving the path forward. And after that, after the whole event is done with, for example, a separation or a breakup, then each individual could seek psychotherapy separately, and we can always refer them for that.
Okay, no, that makes complete sense. Another thing that I saw, so I was going through your website doing kind of a little bit of a deeper dive, and I saw that there was 2 different types of therapy there. And to me, like when I first looked at them, like the lines were kind of blurred on them, but I'm hoping you can help unblur those for me. So what's the difference between couples therapy and family mediation therapy? Because to me, those felt kind of similar, but it seemed like maybe they happen at different stages or they're relevant at different times maybe.
Absolutely. So couples therapy and couples come in all types, and whether it's couples, dating couples, couples who are in a committed relationship, more committed relationship, cohabiting, or even that are contemplating potentially a breakup. With respect to couples therapy, you have 2 people, and they are coming to the therapy. It's just them. Their children are not involved in this type of therapy. And also, it usually works on figuring out what are some of the obstacles that are preventing the couple either from having a content and fruitful relationship, or building on the strength that they have and looking at kind of all the blind spots that they may have that are preventing them from having a great relationship. For example, couples may work on their communication skills. They may work on their negotiation skills with one another within the realms of finances and so on. When it comes to the family mediation therapy, that's more for couples who are going through a breakup or have already gone through a breakup or a divorce. And oftentimes there are children involved. There may be new individuals involved, such as a new boyfriend or a new girlfriend or new partners as a general rule. And this is a package that is helpful for people when they're navigating through the process of breakup and divorce, to do this, go through this process without, with the least amount of trauma, if you will, and financial loss. Also, people could lose tens of thousands of dollars when they go through the process of divorce, just because they don't communicate well, they don't negotiate well with one another. And at the end of the day, children are the parties that lose most. Often the new people added to the relationship, those relationships could become rocky as a result and stressful as well. And this process kind of brings it all together and creates a healthy environment for everybody to move forward in that path.
No, that's great. And so it sounds to me then, so that the couples therapy is, you haven't there's no children, you haven't necessarily decided if you are in fact separating or not. It could be something that you use to strengthen or mend a relationship. Whereas that family mediation therapy is, there's children involved, and you're past the point of mending that relationship. You're more, into that separation, divorce, and you're trying to get through that process in the best possible way.
That's correct. And in couples therapy, you may have children, but children are not involved in the therapy.
Got you. Okay. One thing I remember you mentioned to me, I had it written down my notes here, that, and I think you just said it too, that the children are often the biggest losers if people don't handle that uncoupling process well. Are there any tips or strategies or things that you would say to people as kind of like a blanket statement, to make sure that they're doing that in a good way and keeping their kids in the right, in the forefront?
That is correct. Your statement that kids are usually impacted the most. Couples, they usually come together as adults, and their interactions, if it ends up going through the process of separation, is something that is decided by two adults. And at the end of the day, kids they did not make the decision to be part of this relationship, and they don't make the decision for the couple to stay or to leave, but they end up being impacted the most because kids are supposed to be getting unconditional love and support from their parents. And when parents are in this process, this stressful process, some people could engage in parental alienation of the other party, the other parent. They could engage in venting, emotional venting to children, which is not healthy behavior. And also, if one parent or both parents are asking kids basically to choose a parent, that could be extremely stressful and traumatic for a child. So what to do with that, working throughout that process, keeping in mind that the children, doesn't matter what age they are, kids should not be losing at the end of the day. So communicating to them that there's unconditional love and support from both parents for them, and that love and support is going to continue, not engaging and bad mouthing the other parent or making them look bad, if you will, and not making kids choose between one or the other parent, and just giving them the freedom to engage with each parent and also the new partners of parents. So it could be tempting. Separation and breakup can be really, really difficult. So maybe if one partner is already in a new relationship, it's difficult for the other person, and they may be tempted and saying negative things about the new partner of the mom or dad. And that's just difficult, because what kids need is more love and more support, and that is something that should be paid attention to.
Yeah, that's really good. And I mean, so one thing then, am I right in thinking that like parents shouldn't go to the kids and say, okay, who do you want to spend your time with? Is it me, or is it your mom? But instead, the parents should come up with a plan and then present that plan to the kids versus asking what they want. Is that a general rule of thumb?
Not so much. Obviously it depends on the age of the child. So, over a certain age, obviously the child is, 13 years old, you can ask the kid. It's important for them to feel involved in the process, but not forcing them, not coercing them each way. So going to them and saying, tonight is your night to go see mom. How would you like to do that? Are you okay going? When can I take you? And kids sometimes could kind of utilize this opportunity, if they think that parents are against one another, utilize the opportunity to not to basically take sides in order to survive. So yes, we can go to our kids and ask them what they want, but also make sure that they understand that no matter what they're asking for, they feel loved and supported.
I see. Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense then. So, and it seems like, I guess, like you're saying as well, like, a lot of it depends on the age. Because I mean, if you ask a 3-year-old what they want versus a 15-year-old, I mean,
Exactly.
they have a much, different, ability to comprehend the whole situation, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It depends. And there are certain, obviously, if there's a custody contract agreement, that should be kept in consideration. If there are legal ramifications, all of those things. But at the end of the day, providing our kids with that safe space to express themselves without feeling as though they're letting one parent down or the other.
Gotcha. Okay. So in terms of like relating to the topic, so the breakup, you don't have to be enemies. Are there any tips or things you'd throw at us to say, here are some things to be mindful of to avoid that breakup and creating enemies? Like what are some of the best strategies or tips you'd have for people?
Mm-hmm. So something that we worked really hard on in these sessions, I work a lot with people's feelings and the fact that yes, you are going through a breakup right now, but there was a time that you actually cared about this person. And you may want to consider that although this temporary and transient situation of going through the divorce can be difficult, to consider that you can come together as two people to pave the path forward better, for both of you guys. So cultivating clear, compassionate, and good communication, that's very important. The other thing that's important is remembering that in order for us to move forward, to move on from a relationship, the person that we are separating from does not have to become our enemy. And they could actually, if we have children, it's better to be allies with them than it is to be enemies. And, raising children especially is a very, very much, a team effort. So accepting that the fact that, yes, you are not my partner anymore, but you could be an ally in this path forward. And you know what, if we want to be allies with people, we do not want to engage in tit for tat. We don't want to think of one person as the winner and the other person as the loser. And to kind of separate that process, the process of divorce, from revenge, if you will. It could be tempting. We are all human, but it's best to move forward in a more humane and compassionate way. So engaging in cultivating good communication, compassionate behavior, joining efforts in parenting if children are involved, and also accepting the process is going to be difficult, but it's going to be temporary, just the process, and kind of looking forward to a time where if there are children involved, everybody can engage in interactions in a healthy way. And if there aren't children involved, at least we could leave the other person with compassionate and feeling of humanity and healthy separation.
No, that's great. And that's, yeah, I completely wholeheartedly agree with you on that. And I think from, some of the other Facebook lives I've done with the other experts, I mean, a lot of it, on top of it being better for both individual person, better for children if involved, it seems like if people go into this process with that mentality, it also, in terms of from a financial perspective, it puts them in a much better end position than if it's more adversarial and people are, trying to win or get revenge versus just saying, okay, let's be compassionate, get through this, move on.
And Adam, from a mental health perspective also, if you have gone divorce, it can be one of the most traumatic events for a person in their life, and if you have gone through the process in a more civilized way and in a way where your mental health and the mental health of everybody has been taken into consideration, the long-lasting effects, the traumatic effects on your mental health is going to be far less than if you have gone through the process, this naturally arduous process with, lots of stress, tens of thousands of dollars in, legal fees. Sometimes, as I understand, divorces can become very complicated. But, if you have gone through this, for example, the family mediation package has a portion that it's actual mediation about the finances and so on. That portion is not done by a psychotherapist, but by someone who's a trained mediator. And they sit down with people, and instead of spending, hundreds and hundreds of dollars per hour on, writing letters and dissing one another, they talk in a healthy environment. That could be good for a person's mental health as well, at least not as bad as going through months and months of delegation by our legal friends. That there is a part in it as well. People should always be informed about their rights. People should always know their legal rights and what's good for them. But I'm not qualified to advise on that. But the fact that through this process, the emotional burden and sometimes the physical burden of individuals involved are to be a little bit less.
And now, so people who come to you, who come to your clinic and engage with you at first, I mean, depending on, as you're going through the process with them, depending on what they need, I mean, will you connect them then with either a lawyer or a mediator or a financial advisor, or different people that you think make sense for them to connect with at certain intervals of time?
I actually do not. So ethically, we are not. We do have, as psychotherapists, we have ethical boundaries, but I may suggest that they do their research and they get recommendations and they seek legal advice just to make sure that they know their rights. And if it's a family mediation therapy, it's worth mentioning that the therapist has to be unbiased towards all parties involved. And so with that in mind, also, and with the ethical boundaries that we all psychotherapists are bound. So in Ontario, that would be the College of Registered Psychotherapists of Ontario, or CRPO. We are not able to refer to a particular person, but it advised them to seek proper advice.
I see. Okay. So you'll prompt them then whenever you think, them seeking out legal advice would be advisable. And then from there, they can source their own lawyer at that point.
Absolutely. I would not refer them, but I would suggest that they attend to come into this process in an informed way and make sure that other aspects of their lives are taken care of. So that your psychotherapist is not your financial, your psychotherapist is not your lawyer, and they have to be careful about those boundaries.
Gotcha. Okay. Last thing for you. So if people want to reach out to you directly, if they're, either, in need of couples therapy, psychotherapy, family mediation, what is the best way for them to get in touch? Is it to go through the website? Is that our best kind of means of communication to start?
Yes, absolutely. So we have locations in Ottawa, Kingston, and in 2022, our GTA location in person hopefully will open, pending all COVID restrictions. Obviously, we are providing those restrictions. So if it's a good time for us to go ahead and open the GTA location, we will do that. But our locations in Ottawa and Kingston for in-person are open. And for online therapy also, when it's family therapy, we do that. But the best way is to go through our website, www.yourtherapist.ca, and they could contact the office by phone at 613-410-9393 or email us info@yourtherapist.ca.
That's amazing. Well, that's great. Well, thank you again so much. I really appreciate you joining us. I know, based on the industry that you're in, obviously you're very, very busy these days. So I appreciate you carving out the time for us.
Of course. It was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Okay. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.